my name is Jojo, and welcome to your deep stretch vinyasa yoga. So a bit of it will be a vinyasa kind of flow with sort of one breath, one movement, and then a bit of it will be a little deeper stretch, so one pose could take 5 to 10 breaths. So we'll go ahead and get started, just in a comfortable seat, whatever comfortable seat. If you've got a bolster or a rolled up blanket or towel, you'd like to elevate your hips a little bit, you could slide that under your seat. And something cross-leg or a loose cross if your Sukhasana is in your practice with your heels drawn in towards your groin. You could find that comfortable seat and sit up tall, let your arms rest. Shut your eyes or turn your gaze down toward the tip of your nose. And just use this position to take your awareness, bring it in to your breath. Focus all your awareness on your breath moving through your body. In through your nose and out through your mouth. If you prefer to let go of the open mouth breathing, you could close your lips and breathe in and out through your nose. You can take either variation that suits you. And throughout the next hour, I encourage you to always modify anything that needs modifying in your body, or come to a rest anytime you need. You could find this neutral seated position at any point throughout the next hour. Listen to your body. I always like to start off a yoga class with an intention. Today I'd like to offer, as the seasons are beginning to change, we're coming into fall and eventually winter, the weather's starting to get a little bit chillier, that I'd like to look at sort of balancing. And this is kind of a practice for the beginning of fall, the beginning of winter. So in Ayurveda, which is a sister science to yoga, the science of medicine and the body, you've got 3 doshas, or humors, you could say, or constitutions. And they correlate to the elements. And fall and winter tend to be that sort of airy element. It's cold, it's light and crisp, and maybe a little chaotic or flighty, up in the air. And that's your Vata dosha. Everybody's got a different balance of doshas, but in general, as the seasons change, it can affect people's balance. So today we're going to pacify the Vata dosha a little bit. We're going to ground down into the earth, find some gentle heat and slow down. So we're not fast, light, cool. We are earthy, slow, and grounded, and a little warm. So today I offer the intention of finding some groundedness, slowing down, Open your eyes or lift your gaze. And take your right fingertips to the floor over on your right side. Sweep your left arm out to the left and all the way up and over your head. And bow out on your left side. Keep on reaching, maybe your arm extends over your head. You could walk your right hand out or begin to bend your elbow. Keep both sits bones rooting down. Stretch out through your side body. Inhale. On your exhale, drop both hands down and walk them through the center or slide them through the center. Come all the way to the other side. Take your left hand down, lift your right arm up. Inhale. Exhale, drop your hands and walk or drag them through the center to the other side. Inhale, roll your top shoulder open. Exhale, turn your chest down, swing your arms through. Inhale, stretch your right side long. Exhale, sweep through. Last time around. Inhale, lift your left arm high. Exhale, chest toward the ground, come around. Inhale, lift your right arm. Exhale, drop it. And take a forward fold this time. When you reach the center, stay there for an extra moment. Let your glutes find a little extra space to sink down. Breathe into your back body. Let your head come down, your neck relax. Walk your hands back up towards your hips and come up to a tall seated position. Take your hands down to your thighs or your knees. Inhale and lift your chest. Take your elbows and draw them back towards each other. Look up and out. Exhale and open up through your upper back. Draw your shoulders away from each other. Turn your chin in towards your chest. Inhale, open up through the front side of your body. Draw your shoulders down. Exhale and round your back, drop your chin. Inhale, lift your chest, look up and out. Exhale, round your back, open the back of your neck. Inhale, come straight up through the center. Exhale and take your left hand over to your right leg. Your right hand comes around, either rest on your right hip or you could take your fingers down to the ground. Lift with your spine, inhale. Exhale, revolve around your midline. Open your chest to the side for a twist. Keep your shoulders retracting away from each other. Your spine's long and tall, collarbones broad and lifted. Inhale. Exhale, unwind, turn through the center. Inhale, take your right hand to your left leg. Exhale, twist. Your other hand can find the floor or your hip. Long, tall spine, root to rise. Root down through both sits bones. Broaden your collarbones and lengthen your spine. Inhale. Exhale, unwind, come back through the center. Spin onto one hip and then send your legs behind you and find your tabletop position or your box pose on your hands and your knees. Line up your knees under your hips, your wrists under your shoulders, and flatten your back. If you'd like, if it feels good, you can kick out the tops of your feet touching against the floor one after the other, since you've been in a seated position for a while. If that doesn't feel good, then skip it. Bring your feet to the ground. Inhale, tuck your toes under. Exhale, shift your hips back and up. Straighten your legs. Find your downward facing dog. Let your heels sink and the heels of your hands root down strong into the floor. Spread your fingers, spread your toes. Press the top of your mat away from you for length in your spine. Lift your tailbone up high. Inhale, look for the top of your mat. Exhale, take steps up to the top of your mat. All the way until your feet reach the top, and then soften your knees, let your spine lengthen out. Drop your head toward the ground. Ragdoll pose. Let your spine go limp, your neck relax. Option for a little sway side to side. Option to grab onto opposite elbows, or both or neither. Let your breath build gentle heat. Open up through your glutes and the backs of your legs, your lower back. If you grab for opposite elbows, switch your grip and put your other arm on top for balance in both sides. And drop your hands toward the ground. Roll all the way up. Take this nice and slow. Come all the way up to standing, articulating every vertebra in your spine. Your head is the very last thing to reach the top. And when you reach the top, make any adjustments that you need to hair, clothing, or position in space. Find your weight evenly distributed between both your feet and all sides of your feet. Spread your toes. Let your feet sink. Draw your kneecaps up your legs to strengthen and engage your legs. Slight engagement of your glutes pulls your hips into line. Slight engagement of your lowest abdominal muscles pulls your low back into line. Feel your connection to the earth. Inhale, and take your arms out in a big circle, real slow. As your arms start to come up, pour your weight into the balls of your feet and let your heels start to float away from the floor. As you reach your arms all the way up over your head, let your heels reach their maximum height. On your exhale, sink your heels slow. Take your arms out and around and hinge at your hips. Your heels touch as your hips hinge and your arms come down. Find a forward fold with all four corners of both feet on the floor. Soft knees. Inhale, take a halfway lift to reset. So come up to your fingertips or palms to your shins. And straighten out your back so it's a flat line. And then on your next exhale, let your arms drop, let your head drop for your ragdoll pose. When you rise up all the way, you're also going to lift your heels as you go. Rising all the way up. Unhinge your hips and take your arms out wide. As you start to lift your arms, your heels start to float. Your heels reach the top when your arms reach the top. Exhale, drop your heels slow, slow. Let your arms come down and around, hinge at your hips, and fold down. Inhale, rise up halfway. Flatten your back. Exhale and fold. Inhale, start to come up to a tall standing. Your arms start to come out to the sides like a bird's wings. As you lift, your heels start to float. Press the balls of your feet down to lift your heels, root to rise. Your arms reach all the way up, your heels float. On your exhale, sink your heels, let your arms come down slowly, slowly. Hinge at your hips. Drop your heels, drop your arms, ragdoll pose, drop your head. Inhale, rise up halfway, flatten out your back. Exhale, fold. And stay here in your ragdoll pose, feeling your increased connection to the earth through your lower legs, your ankles, and your feet. Now take your hands down and step your right foot to the back of your mat for a low lunge. Bend your front knee so it tracks over your ankle. Drop your back knee to the ground and untuck your toes. Let there be some space for your hip flexor on your right side to elongate. Keep your right hand down. Inhale, take your left hand onto your thigh or to your hip. Then twist your chest, open to the left. If your hand's on your thigh, you could use it as leverage, root to rise, press to twist. For more heat in your bicep, for your last couple of breaths, you could extend your left arm all the way up into the air. Draw your energy from your right hand on the floor, bring it all the way through your wingspan and up through your left hand towards the ceiling. Inhale. Exhale, drop both hands down. If you've got blocks, take your hands onto your blocks. Walk your hands or your blocks backwards. Straighten your left leg as your hips tip back. And find your kneeling half split. Your front leg may not straighten all the way. That's okay. You could even play with a little rock or a little bending and straightening. Root down strong through your heel. And then maybe play with pointing and flexing your foot. And find which feels like a more grounded place. Keep your hips in one line. You may even feel like your left hip draws back a little extra to meet your right hip where it's at in one line. Tip your your left toes back down to the ground. Bend your knee. Walk your hands or your blocks forward for your low lunge. If you've got blocks, you could keep your hands on blocks, but take your left hand or your left block, walk it around to the inside of your foot. And as your hand comes in, walk your foot out until your foot straddles the edge of your mat. Drop your hips forward and low. And find some extra space to open up your left hip for your runner's lunge. Tune into your back foot. You probably won't be able to look back and see it, but use your awareness of the space and tune into the sensation. Make adjustments so that your back foot is in one straight line and the top of your foot is planted. You have the option to lower down a little further here. If you're craving a deep stretch in your hips, you could bend your elbows, lower down to your forearms. If at any point you're in one variation and it's no longer serving you, then change it up and find something different. To ease off of sensation in this pose, you might close the distance between your legs just a little if the sensation in your hip flexor is overwhelming. Now, came down to your forearms, walk your hands back up to the floor. Now let your left knee start to roll to the left. Your hip opens up and rock your weight onto the outside edge of your foot. So the sole of your foot starts to lift away from the floor. Take your left hand to the inside of your left thigh. And if this feels like a nice stretch, you can add some gentle pressure. And as your leg rolls open, your chest also starts to lift and roll open to point to the left. Draw your leg back in. Bring sole of your foot down to the floor. Then take both hands down. Now toe heel your left foot out to the left in a big semicircle. When it reaches straight out to the side, extend your leg all the way out. I'm going to turn around here so you can see it a little better. So you're on two hands, one knee, and your left leg extends out to the left. Roll the sole of your foot to press into the floor. Walk your hands up and come to tall kneeling. And send your left hand down your leg. Keep your hips moving away from your heels and in a tall kneeling position. Take your right arm up and over. You can trace down your leg. You want to avoid pressing, especially in your knee joint. Reach up and out, feeling the long line that's drawing energy from below, from the earth, up through the side of your hip, nice and long, all the way through your side of your rib cage, stretching out the fascia that contains your muscles through your armpit and your arm all the way up. Inhale, start to rock up. Exhale, take your hands to the floor. And then start to dip your hips back and keep your left leg extended out to the side for a funky child's pose. Sit your hips back to your heel. Maybe drop to your forearms, drop to your forehead. And breathe low into your belly and your hips. Rock yourself forward and pour weight into your hands. Then sweep your leg back around toward the back of your mat. Bend your knee, drop your knee down for your tabletop position. Then widen out your knees, sit your hips back to your heels, stretch your arms out in front of you and drop your head for your child's pose, Balasana. The more that you sit your hips back, the more space for some length in your low back. And breathe into your low back here in your child's pose. This is another place that you could come to at any time throughout the rest of the class. If it speaks to you as a deep rest for your whole body, then anytime that you wish to come to a resting pose, child's pose is here for you. Use the heels of your hands to pull yourself up and draw your knees into line with your hips. Find your tabletop position, straight line through your shins like an equal sign running parallel to each other. And step your right foot in between your hands. And find a little distance between your legs for some more space for your left hip flexor to open up. Keep your front knee tracking over your ankle in a straight vertical line. Avoid tipping your knee past your ankle. And line up your hips so they both point toward the top of your mat. Root down through your left hand. Inhale, take your right hand to your thigh or to your hip. If your hand's on your thigh, you can use some gentle pressure to deepen your twist. Keep your thigh pulling in towards you so your knee stays in line with your ankle. Long, straight spine, shoulders coming down your back. Option for more heat in your bicep to extend your right arm high. Inhale, exhale, and drop both hands down. If you've got blocks, you could find your hands on blocks. Then walk your hands or your blocks back. As your right leg straightens out, your hips tip back for your kneeling half split. Rest on your right heel, and then maybe you point and flex your foot and find which the point or the flex feels more stable. Line up your hips for more stability. Maybe even feeling like you're drawing your right hip further toward the back of your mat. Don't forget to breathe. Continuing those nice, deep, steady breaths. Align your inhales and your exhales so they're about the same length. Bend your right knee and walk your hands or blocks back out in front of you. And then take your right hand or block in and walk your right foot out. So your shoulder, your torso comes down on the inside of your right leg, starting to work some more external rotation and getting to the inside of your hip. So straddle the edge of your mat with your right foot and then both hands on the floor on the inside of the foot for your runner's lunge. Bring your awareness to your back foot. Draw it into one line. Line up your whole back leg in one long straight line so the energy can flow clear of any blockages. If the sensation is overwhelming in your left hip flexor, then you might want to scoot your back leg in a little closer and increase the bend in, or rather the flex in your hip. You have the option to drop down a little lower. You could come to your forearms, even maybe your forehead down, or if you've got a block, you could take your forehead onto a block. If you lower down, walk your hands back up. Then let your right hip externally rotate even more. So your knee rolls out and the outside edge of your foot comes down. The sole of your foot lifts. And then take your right hand to the inside of your right thigh. You could add some gentle pressure to act as an aid for your twist. Open up your chest to the right. Inhale, tip your foot back down. Draw your knee back in, then walk your foot all the way so the sole of your foot's down. Both hands come down. Now walk your foot out and around. And find your tabletop with one leg extended. So when your leg comes out to the side, then straighten it out and take the sole of your foot down. Lift your hands and come to high kneeling. Send your right hand down your right leg. Reach your left arm up. Keep your fingers together and extended on your left hand. Straighten out your wrist. Draw energy from down below, through the knee, up and out, all the way up. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, drop both hands down. Then rock your hips back for your funky child's pose. Sit your hips back to your heel. And extend your right leg out to the right. Rest either the sole of your foot or the inside edge. You could let your head drop. And breathe into your back, your sacrum. Wherever there's much sensation, you send your breath there. Breathe into sensation. Come right back up to your hands. Draw your leg toward the back of your mat. Bend your knee. Then widen your knees a little and find your child's pose with both knees on the ground. Your unfunky child's pose. Extend your arms out in front of you, drop your head. Keep on sitting your hips back to your heels to open up through your SI joint, your low back. Keep the breathing steady. Tune into your sensation in your body, in your skin, your temperature, your heart rate. Whether you can feel some warmth on your skin. How does your breath feel, warm or cool? Heavy or light? Just observe. From your child's pose, rock up onto your hands and knees and draw your knees back in line. Find your tabletop position with your hips in neutral. Now tuck your toes under. This time, instead of coming to downward facing dog, walk your hands back, tip weight into your feet. Keep your knees bent, but rock your knees away from the floor. Walk your hands up and find a crouching position. And then scoot your feet a little bit wider apart. You can start by rocking to one side and then toe heeling the opposite foot a little further. And come to where your feet straddle the edge of your mat. Turn your heels in and your toes out. This doesn't have to be a big exaggerated movement. Your toes don't have to point straight out to the sides. Just getting a little bit of external rotation in the hips, and it might even make it easier to sink your heels down as they come in. If they don't quite reach the floor, that's okay. If you've got a block, you could take it under your seat and actually sit down onto your block and focus less on the balancing and more on just stretching out through your hips. In your Malasana squat, your goddess squat, or your garland pose. So your knees start to point out as you externally rotate your hips. You could lift your hands and draw your hands together in front of your chest. Maybe even using your elbows on the insides of your knees as a gentle pressure to open up your legs a little wider. If the pressure is uncomfortable, you could keep your hands here without your elbows on your legs. Unfurl your spine. Take your rib cage away from your pelvis to unfurl the spine. So you want to avoid shrugging down, getting your shoulders up like a curled up position, and find a tall spine. We're gonna come out of this pose slow. You can drop your hands if you lifted, and maybe you start with a rock forward and back, where you rock side to side, swing around. When you're ready, lift your hips up into the air, straighten your knees, turn your toes so your feet run parallel. And come into your forward fold. And then walk your feet a little bit further in until they're just hip width distance apart. So you've got about 2 fists of space in between your feet. Take your left hand and draw it in toward the midline of your mat. Plug it in right in between your space of your feet, and then a little forward. So you draw a triangle on the mat from toe to the heel of your hand. Bend your left knee. Inhale, sweep your right arm up into the air and twist your chest over to the right. Draw a long line on the outside edge of your right hip and leg. For less sensation, bend into both knees. For more sensation, draw your right hip further back. Deepen your twist, roll your shoulder down. One more inhale, exhale, drop both hands, even out your hips, and then give a little shake to your hips, bend one knee and then the other. Then draw your right hand into the midline of your mat, bend your right knee. Inhale, sweep your left arm high, and hold here for a couple breaths. For less sensation, bend both knees. For more sensation, rock your hip back. Draw a longer line through the outside of your left leg. Take another inhale. Exhale, drop down and wiggle it out. Bend one knee and then the other. Swivel your hips. Bend your knees and come into a crouching position. Your heels might lift. Then walk your hands back and drop your seat down. Transition to a seated position. Take your left leg and extend it out in front of you. Bend your right knee. Bring the sole of your right foot to the floor. It might line up around your left knee, your foot. Sit down with both sits bones equally. You could even reach back and widen out your glutes so you feel your sits bones rooting down. Lift up with your spine so your low back lengthens. Your shoulders stack over your hips. Hang on to your bent leg with your left hand. Draw your right hand around to the floor behind you. Hang on to your leg, twist your chest open to the right. You could walk your hand a little further, maybe grab on with the crook of your elbow to your knee for a slightly deeper twist. Suck your belly in and then take it up and around your thigh to deepen your twist. Option to look back over your right shoulder. Take note of what's happening with your breath in your twist. Keep your shoulders away from your ears and your neck long. Unwind. Turn to face the top of your mat. Keep your right knee bent. Let it fall open. Make any adjustments so you can tip forward and really feel your sits bones rooting down. And keep the sole of your right foot rooting to the inside of your left leg. You could pull your heel in a little closer to your groin for more sensation as you roll your hip open and your knee comes out wide. Then take your hands to the floor and walk your hands out toward your extended leg. Soften your knee, take your belly toward your thigh. Open through your low back. Option to grab a hold of whatever's available. You could grab onto your shin, ankle, or foot, or keep your hands on the floor. Yogi's choice. Find a spot that makes you feel grounded, secure, and stable. Feel your connection through your sit bones to the ground, through your left heel to the ground. Walk or drag your hands back up. Then bend your left knee, take both soles of your feet together to touch each other for a butterfly position. Both hips rolling open. Hang on to your shins, ankles, or feet. Inhale to lift up tall. Exhale, bend your elbows. Hinge at your hips. Flatten out your back in a diagonal plane. Before you release your head. If your elbows are on your inner thighs, you could very gently use your elbows to widen out your legs. Lift back up to your tall spine. Keep your left leg bent. Extend your right leg out in front of you. Stretch it out long. Root through your heel. Flex your foot. Draw your left foot in to the inside of your right leg. Roll your hip open so your knee travels out. Take your hands and scoot or walk them down towards your right foot, toward the top of your mat. Option to grab a hold of whatever's available on your leg or foot. Soften your knee to get your belly down toward your thigh. Stretch out your low back. Walk or drag your hands back up towards your seat into a tall spine. Now take your left knee, draw it up towards you. Roll it up and then plant your foot. So your knee is pointing up. Adjust so you feel both sits bones on the ground. Long, tall spine. Take your left leg in your right hand. Your left hand comes down behind you. Twist to the left. Option for a slightly deeper twist to take the crook of your elbow to your knee and hug a little tighter. Take your belly out and around your thigh. Twist at your midline. Create some space for the spot that this twist takes place. So it's between your rib cage and your pelvis. So lengthen out between your rib cage and your pelvis. And then take that space to twist. Shoulders coming away from your ears. Last inhale. Exhale, unwind, turn toward the top of your mat. Bend your legs and then roll down onto your back. All the way down. And feel your spine long along the mat. Bend your knees. And let there be some distance between your knees. Lift your feet. Grab onto one shin or knee with each hand. Draw your legs in so your thighs come in towards your sides of your belly. For your wind removing pose, Apanasana. As you draw your legs in, feel your low back lengthen and anchor into the floor. Anchor through the back of your head, and somewhere along your upper back and your low back. Find that spot that just roots like a steel cable is anchoring it. Now keep your right leg in your hand, extend your left leg and drop your heel to the ground. Guide your leg in so you can hold it with both hands. Gentle squeeze to give your digestive organs a little pressure like a massage. And guide your knee across your body for a twist. Let your knee come to the opposite side and then take your right arm out to the right. You could extend it or bend it 90 degrees. Roll your right shoulder open so it falls down toward the ground. Option to turn your face to the right. Let gravity take a hold of you and pull you into the earth. Let gravity do the work of the twist. Rock your hips back down to the ground. Bend both your knees, passing through Apanasana, wind removing pose. One leg in each hand. Draw your low back long against the floor. Release your right leg, extend it long. And grab onto your left leg with both hands and pull it in towards you for a little massage of your digestive organs. Your thigh coming in towards your belly. Draw your knee across your body so it points to the right. Roll onto one hip. Send your left arm out to the left. Option to turn your face to the left for a supine twist. Let gravity help you out. You could start to shut your eyes here or soften your eyelids. Unfurl your fingers and your toes. Relax your eyebrows and your forehead. If you can, relax your jaw a little bit more. Rock both hips down to the ground. Draw both legs in, Apanasana. Feel your spine's length and the parts of your spine that root down, growing heavy. Release your grip on your legs and extend your legs out toward the top of your mat. Rest your heels on the ground and let your feet flop open. Rest your arms loosely by your sides. Give your sides a little bit of room. And roll your palms so they face up to the ceiling, to open up your shoulder girdle. Shut your eyes or turn your gaze to the tip of your nose. We're coming into our final resting pose, Shavasana. If you sense any discomfort, find a place where you're going to be comfortable for several minutes. If that includes propping up your knees with a bolster or rolled up blanket, you can find that prop and take it under your knees. Or maybe you even want to cover yourself with a sweater, a blanket, to avoid getting chilly, retain your warmth. Find a spot where you can be still. And let yourself sink into the floor. begin to envision some liquid sunlight, some warm golden substance pouring into you. And like you are an empty vessel, you fill up starting at your toes. And it pours from above the crown of your head all the way into you, and it fills up from the bottom through your feet, your ankles, your lower part of your legs. Bring your awareness with that pool of golden light as it continues, that liquid sunlight moving to fill up the container. Your lower legs go up to your upper legs and your hips, and it fills up into your belly, your low back. Let that liquid sunlight fill the container, that warm golden substance coming up even higher into your rib cage and filling up. And as it goes, let it release any tension that it meets and dissolve any block that it encounters. And that golden sunlight continues to fill you up. And now it pools down your arms into your hands, filling up each finger. And as it fills, it relaxes. And let that pool of golden sunlight stream down your arms, your lower half of your arms, your elbows, your biceps, your shoulders. Let it pour in and fill up your neck and throat, and your mouth, your jaw, your face, all the way up to the crown of your head. Feel that golden liquid sunlight radiating throughout your entire body, warm and soft, shimmering and loose and fluid. Let that sensation begin to awaken greater sensations in your skin. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin, your clothes, or your blanket. And start to bring some movements back. Wiggle your fingers, your toes. And roll your ankles, your wrists. Take any wiggles that feel nice to awaken your body. And take a long body stretch with your arms over your head. Hug your knees into your chest. Any way that makes sense to you, make your way up into a seated position, a comfortable seat. When you find your comfortable seat, sit up tall and grounded. Root to rise. Your sits bones rooting down. Your spine stacked. Bring your hands together in front of your chest and draw your hands in toward your heart to acknowledge the light that surrounds us. Shut your eyes or turn your gaze down. The light and love in me honors the light and love in you. Together we bow and say namaste. Namaste. Thank you everybody for joining me. My name's Jojo. And that was your winter yoga or fall yoga. So I recommend drinking water that is not ice cold, but drinking plenty of it. Stay hydrated and stay warm as it cools down. Namaste.